So I'm Scott Cook. I'm with the South Carolina Department of Consumer Affairs. I am the communications director, and I've been with the agency for about a little bit over 3 years now. I've been in this role for a little bit over a year as communications director. So glad you guys could be joining us for our Wednesday webinar. Today we'll be talking about our 2025 ID theft and scam report. And this is going to include details on scams and identity theft reports that people have filed with our agency during the 2024 calendar year. So if you hear me mentioning any totals or any numbers throughout the webinar, I'm talking about last calendar year. The information is not going to reflect anything for the past 2 months or so here in South Carolina. And if you haven't noticed, we're on Zoom. You should have somewhere on your panel a little black box like this with the chat and the Q&A on those little panels. Usually it's at the top or the bottom, depending on how you've got things set up on your Zoom. But if you have any questions or anything you want to let me know about, you can send those over through either the Q&A or through those little chat boxes like you have there. And in the chat box, hopefully you should see a PDF of the slides and the actual identity theft and scams report. If those aren't in there, you can email me at the end and I'll shoot those files to you. But you should be able to click into that chat box and hopefully see those PDF files and download those as we go. And of course, we always give our quick disclaimer. This presentation is not meant to serve as a substitute for reading the various laws discussed, seeking legal counsel, or requesting department guidance and/or interpretations on the laws it administers and enforces. The presentation merely serves as an introduction and overview. And here's our roadmap for today. I'm going to give you a quick intro on SCDCA, who we are, and how we might be able to help you. We'll talk about the identity theft numbers in our report. Then we'll go over the scam numbers as well. And as always, we've got some top tips for you to help keep your identity and your money safe. And those will be some free resources available as well. And of course, we always like free here at the South Carolina Department of Consumer Affairs. So how can SCDCA help you? You can file a complaint with our agency. We receive thousands of complaints each year, and we use a voluntary mediation process to handle those. If you have an issue, a lot of times it's just helpful to write out what happened, what you would like to have happen from the business, kind of what kind of response you would like from them, and we pass that information along and hopefully can help you and the company come up with some kind of resolution that you're both comfortable with. You can report a scam to our office. We take these reports even if you did not fall victim to the scam, and those details can help us kind of monitor what's happening across the state and help us warn other people about potential scams that are out there and help them, from becoming a victim from something. You can report identity theft with our agency. We have an ID theft unit that can kind of walk you through that process and help you figure out if there's steps you might need to take to minimize further damage from happening. Some cases with identity theft and scams, they can help you get a little bit of money back. So it's kind of important to find those things and report them to our agency as soon as you can. Hopefully we can kind of walk you through that. You can also background a business on our website. We have a list of all the businesses that we regulate and license. You'll be able to find out information about them. And we also have some link to other state agencies that might kind of license some of those other areas that fall out of our jurisdiction. And you can also go through our complaint database on our website and kind of get a feel for complaints about a business that you may be considering using. It's going to give you some general info about the complaint and kind of how that business responded. And it might kind of help you decide if that's somebody you want to do business with. We also do free presentations, of course, kind of like the one that you're watching right now. We do them both virtually and in person. So if you have a community group that's interested in a presentation, we will come out and do those for free. We travel all across the state. We do a variety of topics, including identity theft and scam prevention. We do some on credit reports, what they are, why they matter. And then we have a variety of other consumer-related topics that we'll come out and give presentations for as well. And our office can kind of help you get answers to your questions. We have a live receptionist who answers our phones and not a machine. So hopefully you'll get a live person and they'll be able to kind of direct you to the proper place for your questions, even if it's not something that falls into our area. But we kind of pride ourselves in being able to help get folks to the place they need to be and hopefully get some answers to those questions you might have. And you can find everything I just mentioned on our website. And that's kind of the important box to use too, as well. If you have an identity theft or scam situation that has impacted you, you can go to that little "How do I" button right there in the middle of the screen and click that, and you'll see a list of drop downs for report identity theft and report a scam are on there, as well as the presentations and complaints. And you can also click that "About Us" button to learn a little bit more about our agency, who we are, and the types of things that we do. So now we'll kind of get into our main topic, and we'll be kind of starting just kind of talking a little bit about identity theft. And it can happen to anybody. That's kind of the important thing to mention there. You know, we all have our information out there, and we all are, you know, potentially at risk if we're sharing too many details out. So identity theft, what we're kind of talking about is when somebody's using that personal or financial information without your permission, and they're committing some kind of fraud with that. So may not necessarily be somebody using your name on social media, but they're using your personal financial information, and they're doing things like opening new credit cards in your name, maybe taking out loans in your name, opening up phone services, things like that. And they might even be using your Social Security, things like that, on your tax refunds and trying to get those refunds back in your, you know, it's in your name, but they're sending the money to themselves and not you. And they're going to leave you on the hook for kind of a fake tax refund that's been filed. So as you can imagine, that could be a gigantic headache. And it's just kind of important to keep in mind that, you know, pretty much any kind of way you can use your information, scammers and identity thieves can use that information too. So they can do all those same things that you can do, they can do. And how do these things happen? A lot of times, unfortunately, it's us. We're kind of the ones who give that information away kind of unknowingly. We may click on a link that we thought was, you know, our bank or something like that, and we're putting those details in, putting account numbers or Social Security numbers on a site that we thought was legitimate, something like that. Sometimes they can be security breaches. We don't really have any control over what happens to that information once, you know, another company may be using your details and that information is breached on a website or their databases. So, you know, that's a lot of important information that can be out there. I know I've been subject to several security breaches over the past year or two, and we'll talk a little bit about that later in a different webinar. But you know, any of these ways that are out there, you know, these are all different types of things that might be able to happen, and your identity and your information get out there. So we encourage you, especially when we're talking about all the mail there at the bottom, you'll see that. So that's kind of why we say it's important to shred a lot of those documents that may be sitting in mailboxes, or you've gotten stuff in the mail that's just then kind of sitting around. You want to make sure you're shredding that type of stuff as well. So with our identity theft and scams report, we're going to start taking a look at that now. In 2024, there were 431 identity theft reports filed with our agency, and that's up about 19% from 2023. So we had about 346 reports filed with us the year before. Then in 2024 is 431, and you'll kind of see our top three types of identity theft that happened during the year with folks. And our number one is financial identity theft. And what we're talking about that is when maybe you see some withdrawals from your bank account that you can't explain, or you're getting bills in the mail that are for other people, and or, you know, maybe not something that you opened up, but it's got your name and it's kind of billing to you. Debt collectors may be calling you about debts that aren't yours. And you might find unfamiliar addresses, accounts, charges, things like that on your credit report. So all of those would be kind of examples of things that might happen with financial identity theft. Our second category there is going to be government identity theft. And that's kind of when maybe the IRS notifies you that one or more tax returns have been filed, something like that. Or maybe you're seeing some information on those tax records that have an employer that you didn't actually work for, or you're finding errors on Social Security statements, things like that, or maybe unemployment benefits have been filed in your name. All those things would be kind of something that we consider falling under that government identity theft type. And our third category there is going to be medical identity theft. And of course, that's if you're maybe getting bills from medical providers that were, you know, for services that you didn't use. Or it might be a health plan that rejects claims that you've made because, you know, maybe they're saying that you've reached your benefits, and that's something that you shouldn't be close to reaching yet. Or maybe your health plan won't cover you because they say, you have different medical conditions that aren't actually part of your record, something like that. So all those different types of things can fall under medical identity theft. We've got a little pie chart here that kind of outlines some of the complaints or the identity thefts reported to us last year. You'll see 297 of those cases, or about 69%, there were those financial identity theft reports that came into us. And that's going to be that number one category again, by far. And a lot of times those were things issued around credit cards, probably somebody using either an existing credit card or opening up a new account in somebody's name. So again, it's that type of stuff. Government category was around 19%, with 83 reports filed with our agency. And the medical identity theft was pretty small this year, just above 1%, a little bit over 1%. And it's kind of worth noting with that too, we kind of had a larger other category. 9% of the reports that were filed with this fell into that other category, which just kind of meant that they didn't meet any of the specifics of the main categories that we track. So again, that was about 9% of those that fell into that other category. All right, and so consumers reported potential losses, $271,991 with SCDCA during 2024. And when we talk about potential losses, this usually the amount of money reported stolen through identity theft that the consumer was able to get back or credited to their accounts. So that's why we kind of notify that as potential losses. So hopefully they were able to get all that money back credited to their accounts. But the actual losses you'll see is much larger, 2,211,000 and 134, kind of rounding that number up there. And again, that's the number actually lost by consumers that were reported to our office for identity theft. And it's kind of important to note that this was twice the amount of last year. So that dollar value has gone up double since 2023. And our report also kind of looks at the age ranges of those people who have filed those reports with us. And you'll kind of see the largest group there are those people 35 to 44 years old. And that's going to be about 17.4% on that. 55 to 64-year-olds, it's about 15%. And then our 65 to 74-year-olds, and that 14%. We also have a good bit there that were undisclosed. And that just simply means that those folks did not, give us an age. But we kind of tell people as well, these things with identity theft, especially, it doesn't matter about your age, and it especially doesn't matter about credit score. I know a lot of times people laugh at me and say, my credit's horrible. Why does somebody want to steal that? Criminals don't care. They're basically just wanting to steal your identity for fraud, and they're going to leave you on the hook for something that they're doing. So they don't really care if your credit's bad or not, or your age for that matter. But, they're basically trying to leave you on the hook for what they're doing. So none of that information really matters to them. Once they get access to it, they're going to try to use it. And you can kind of see it's pretty level across the board for the most part. Kind of those younger ages, 18 and 17-year-old, those are really low on the report, but it is kind of important to stress to people that identity theft can happen to people, especially young and even children in some cases. And, a lot of times, just since those people in that age group aren't actively out using credit or seeking new lines of credit, they may not be finding out about some of those identity theft situations. So we kind of encourage young folks too to take a look at credit reports and do those things to kind of see what might be going on in their credit files. And, maybe that would help adjust some of those numbers. I don't know, but, identity theft can happen even to those young people. So it's kind of important to stress for young folks to kind of be taking a look at those credit reports and things that are going on with their accounts. And when it comes to the ways that people discovered they were identity theft victims, you'll see kind of that other category was pretty large. And I'm trying to think of the percentage on that. I had that written down. I believe it's about 30% or so fell into that other category. So we'll kind of take a look at that later and see kind of how those things were coming in. But that just basically means that we didn't have something that those reports fell into. Credit report, again, this is kind of the big number for those discovery methods, and why we encourage folks to look at their credit reports quite often. You'll see about 19% of the people that were notified about identity theft found out from a credit report. So that's why it's kind of important to kind of look at those regularly, at least once a year. Bank notice was about 10%, and a business notification was a little bit under 9%. We'll say 8.5 is what I have written here. And again, it's kind of just important to monitor your credit reports, look at everything regularly, make sure everything's listed correctly on those accounts. And we'll kind of get into that a little bit later, kind of near the end of the presentation. We also kind of look at what was going on with our counties and those reports that came into us. So you'll kind of see those lists here. Those are the numbers that are coming in from each of those counties. So you'll see our top 3 counties, Richland, Lexington, and Greenville. Richland made up about 11% or close to 12% of those reports that came through. Lexington was a little bit under 8%, and Greenville, again, was kind of that same area, about 8% as well. You'll also see Spartanburg and Horry County kind of rounding out the top 5 with that. The actual report that you'll see on our website, and you should have in that little chat box, that's going to get into a little bit more detail, and it looks at the per capita as well. So you can kind of look at that by the population of the county, and you'll kind of notice maybe some of the small counties have a higher per capita number, but only a few reports, and that's just because they don't have as many people. So they're kind of looking at, that interrelation of the number of people that actually live in the county. But again, this one is kind of looking at the actual number of reports. So Richland, Lexington, and Greenville in our top 3 for that identity theft situations reported to us. Now, when we look at our scam reports, you'll see 739 scams reported to SCDCA during 2024. That's actually down about 23% from 2023. Back at that year, we had 963 scams reported to our agency. So we're down a little bit from year to year, which is potentially a good thing. Our number 1 scams, again, kind of the same one that we've seen in the past, purchase scams, top scam reported to us. And when we talk about that, it's usually when a consumer's going to some kind of imposter website or something that's been set up to trick people into paying for either fake goods or things that they just don't get at all. A lot of times people go online, make purchases, and then they never get anything. So that's kind of that big thing that really happens with those purchase scams. So, some big advice with that would be to kind of stick to those websites that you use regularly. You know them, you trust them, they've been well established. Kind of avoid those random things that might pop up on social media or some of the ads you see on websites. If you're not very familiar with those sites, avoid them. Those sites can be faked. And kind of the big thing with purchase scams as well, or just kind of anything that you're purchasing online, is to use your credit card, not your debit card. And that's going to give you a little bit of added protections. Those debit cards are, of course, direct lines to your checking accounts and things like that. And those credit cards are going to give you a little bit more protections under federal law and things like that. They'll kind of help you get your money back a little bit faster than a debit card might, even if you're getting money back from some of those. So really encourage folks to use those credit cards for online purchases. Debt collection scams were our number 2 type scam that came into our office. A lot of times these are fake debt collector calls. So somebody's calling either just with a fake amount that they say that you owe, or, something like that. A lot of times there are steps that debt collectors are supposed to do to verify to you that, they're collecting a legitimate debt. So our office can help you with that. But, watch out for any of these people who might threaten you with lawsuits or use foul language or anything like that. Those are kind of those quick warning signs that it might be a debt collection scam. If you're getting things about that just don't make sense. Hopefully, if you're getting any calls about a debt, you're expecting it and you kind of realize that you're behind or something like that. But if it's something out of the blue, you can check in with us and we can kind of help walk you through that process of trying to determine if it's an identity theft situation or a scam, or kind of what's going on with that. Service repair, kind of rounding out our top 3 there. And that's usually when somebody's consumers approached by an imposter business. Again, imposter business is kind of the common theme with a lot of this. And they're going to try to trick you into paying for some kind of fake service or some kind of fake repair. Fake credit repair companies might be an example of that. Some kind of internet service that you're maybe signing up for. Those would be pretty good examples of those service repair scams that often come into us. And again, here's our quick little pie chart on the scam reports, kind of outlining the numbers and the percentage there. Our purchase scams, about 17%, close to 18% on that. Debt collection was just under 12% of those reports that came into us, and those service repair scams were about 11.6%. And when we're talking about scams from 2024, here's kind of our quick look at our potential losses and actually losses. Those potential losses, again, these are scams that came in and the consumer did not fall victim to the scam. So you'll see about $2.8 million there. Again, these were people who did not fall victim to those scams. So that's a good thing. And again, we encourage people to file those reports with us, even if they didn't fall victim to a scam. And that just kind of helps us tell other people about what's going on and hopefully keep others from falling victim to a scam. You'll see with those actual losses, we're about $5.28 million there. And again, that's the total number of money reported to us by people who did fall victim to that scam. 5.28 million on that number. And luckily that's nearly 12% decrease from 2023. But it is kind of important to note to people, these numbers can change dramatically. One scam can potentially be, 6-7 figures. Some of these scams can run pretty big. So, 1 or 2 scams can quickly jump those numbers up. But luckily for the year to year, we were down about 12% from 2023. So who's reporting scams? A lot of the people who filed with us are older adults, unfortunately. 23% of them in that 65 to 74 age range. About 15% fell into the 75 to 84-year-old range, and 55 to 64-year-olds made up about 14.6%. So as you can see, that is scaling on the older side. There's a lot of discussion about that. Younger people probably falling victim to scams, but probably aren't losing as much money from all of the national studies and things that I've seen. So, if a younger person's losing just 20, 30 bucks, they might be shrugging it off and not filing or notifying anybody. While older adults have a lifetime of wealth that they've accumulated, have larger values potentially to lose. So maybe, more inclined to file those reports as well. But unfortunately, our older population is kind of the, more likely to be the victim, at least of those reports that have actually been filed with our agency. So how are scammers contacting us? A large amount is by the phone. It's just kind of important to note, you see 294 there of those came in through the phone. And, scammers can be pretty convincing, especially if they get you to answer that line. So once you get talking to them, they can talk you into doing a lot of different things and handing over money and information. So we really just kind of encourage folks, if you're not expecting a phone call or a message about something, hang up. Don't believe caller ID, that type of stuff. Caller ID can obviously be faked. So if you're getting messages asking for financial information or personal identifying information, money, hang up. And, you probably have a phone number that is on the back of your credit card or debit card that will get you to your bank. Use those numbers. If it's a company that you deal with regularly, go to their website or their app and find those contact information. Just kind of don't trust those things that come into the phone, and that will help you out. And also kind of use those block and report scam or report junk messages that you get on your phone. That will kind of help you reduce some of those calls that come in as well. And we'll kind of look at the top 3 counties that came reporting scams to SCDCA in 2024. And our top 3 counties, Richland County, just under 13% of the scam reports in our office came from Richland County. Lexington County was a little bit under 10%, and Horry County was just under 9%. So again, that full report on our website is going to give you that kind of per capita number too. So kind of show you how those things were going with the population of those counties. One explanation for some of the larger counties too may just be people in those counties are very familiar with our agency. We obviously do a lot of work in Lexington and Richland, but we travel to Horry and Greenville, Spartanburg area quite a bit as well, along with Charleston. So, those maybe a little bit of awareness issues with some of those larger counties too, just that we travel there quite a bit and talk with folks there. But, we encourage anybody across the state, if you've fallen victim to a scam or have one directed towards you, report them to our office so we can track all that information. So kind of talking a little bit more about scams and identity theft and things to look out for, kind of the important thing that I always tell people, obviously, no matter how they're reaching out to you, they want to get your money and they want to get your personal information, but it's kind of important to tell people, they're communicating and they're chatting with people the same ways that we do. So a lot of times that's phone, that's text messages, especially social media, fake websites. So kind of any of those ways that we communicate and talk with each other, scammers are potentially doing those things as well. When it comes to the red flags, we always tell people, scammers are changing their methods all the time, but there are a few red flags that we know kind of go along with every scam or every type of scam that's out there. Kind of one of the big things to know is that scammers pretend to be somebody somebody you recognize, and they do that because they want to earn your trust and then take advantage of that trust. So this may be, somebody that on social media or a friend that you have on social media. Maybe, again, those kind of spoofing phone calls, something like that. But scammers know if you recognize the name, you're more likely to interact with them. So that's kind of why they do that. Then they're going to say there's a problem or a prize that may be, you're in trouble with the government or you owe money for some crazy reason, like jury duty that you've missed or, something's going on with your accounts. There's always some kind of problem that they come up with or some kind of emergency that you've got to deal with. Or they may say there's a prize and they're doing all this to get you excited. They want to get those emotions going, and maybe you're not going to think quite straight. If you think there's some kind of big problem going, or you think that, there's good reason to be excited for a prize, you may not be kind of thinking the same way that you normally would in a regular situation. And then they're going to pressure you to act immediately. And a lot of that is they just don't want you to have time to think things out. They don't want you to have time to talk to somebody and kind of pinpoint what they're trying to do. So again, it's kind of that pressure to act immediately. You have to act now or else. And they're going to ask you to pay in some specific way. A lot of times right now, it's cryptocurrency ATM, where they're going to tell you there's some kind of problem, and the only way to fix it is to send money by going to a cryptocurrency ATM and either scanning a QR code or giving them access to that account for some way. So anytime somebody's demanding cryptocurrency, or maybe they're asking for gift cards, those are kind of those big red flags if somebody's asking for those specific payments that are a little unusual and maybe a little bit harder to kind of figure out where that money's going, or, particularly hard with cryptocurrency and gift cards to get that money back once you've given that information away too. So that's, kind of better than cash in some situations for them. So they want you to pay in those specific odd ways. So kind of our quick little roadmap to avoiding some of these types of scams. That number one way, we said all those phone calls that came in, getting people with scams. Kind of the big tip here would be just don't answer calls that you don't know. If you don't know the number, don't answer it. If you're not expecting these types of calls, don't answer those phone calls. They can go to voicemail and you can figure it out later. Block and report those numbers as they come in too. So if you're getting a lot of calls that are junk or spam, report them to your phone provider, and that can kind of help them monitor where all those bad actors are coming from and hopefully stop them from getting through to other people. And of course, don't give away your personal or financial information for requests that you didn't expect. What I mean for that, again, is people calling you and asking for those either login credentials for accounts or telling you you've got to give them personal information, financial information, account numbers, login access, those types of things. That's just not the way those businesses normally work. So if you're getting those types of calls, again, hang up and then kind of check it out on your own. You can go to their app and look for, all those contact information. You want to make those calls yourselves and not rely for those calls that come into you. And again, don't fall for those high pressure situation. If somebody's demanding payments right away, or demanding information right away, that's a good sign that it's a scammer. Again, they're just trying to get your blood pressure going. They're trying to get you to not think quite straight and make decisions that you probably normally wouldn't do. So anytime they're turning on those high pressure situations, watch out. And again, kind of watch out for those unusual forms of payment. gift cards, cryptocurrency, wire transfers, some of the payment apps, sometimes those requests that scammers like. Again, they're just knowing that it may take a little while to figure out that you've been scammed. And by the time you do, that money's gone and it's, over into another account somewhere that investigators can't get a hold of. So just kind of watch out for those unusual forms of payment, gift cards, cryptocurrency, things like that. And of course, we always tell people, stop, think about it, talk to somebody you trust. It's always good to have somebody that you can run these types of things by. Tell people all the time, there's some strange scams that come through that I've never seen. And whenever they do come up, have to talk to either somebody I work with or somebody at home and just be like, what is this? What do you think this is about? Sometimes even, just saying things out loud as you're saying it out, you'll kind of have that realization that something's not really quite right. We always tell people to trust your gut. So if things don't sound right, don't follow through with whatever the request is. But again, it's kind of good advice just to stop and talk to somebody you trust. And again, it's just kind of that important step away for a second and not make a rash decision. So now we'll kind of get into our tools to protect yourself and your information. And if you've been on any of our webinars before, I know you've heard a lot of these, but two-factor authentication is going to be one of the best things you can do to protect your accounts, especially social media. I would encourage you to put two-factor authentication on, as well as all your financial accounts and any emails, things like that. You pretty much want to put it everywhere that it's available, but you can find something that will kind of help you out and something that you're comfortable with. Is kind of what I always tell people. So you can find something that you have. Maybe it's a passcode that's texted to your phone, or a lot of people, especially us here at work, we have an app that we go to. Anytime we try to log in, it pops up on our app and we have to either enter a code or click a little check mark. But you can find any of those types of things, something that you have that will help you kind of get into your accounts. And it's making it twice as hard for hackers. So they got your password, they'll need this other step to get into your account. So they don't have that passcode that's coming in. Or, you can also maybe set it up with your face scan for a lot of apps and a lot of accounts, things like that. Kind of the important thing is just find something that you're comfortable with, something that you'll actually use. And it's worth just, 10 seconds or so that it takes you to use those things. Again, it kind of makes it twice as hard for hackers. So take advantage of it. It will take you a few more seconds to get into those accounts, but it's worth adding that layer of protection. And also take advantage of some of the free account alerts that your banks and credit cards offer. If you go into your settings for those accounts, I know on my app, it's always in a settings thing where you can go in and then look at the alerts that they have. But you can set up a lot of different types of alerts. Maybe you can set up ones that will tell you if you've spent a certain dollar amount, or maybe if your balance is getting low, something like that. You can set all of those. You can set them to let you know if somebody's trying to log in from a new device. We'll get you those little, is this you alerts, maybe that you get a text message for if somebody's trying to either spend or get you, into your account, something like that. If they're trying to log in, you can kind of set those up in a lot of different ways. Kind of the important thing is just kind of look through what those financial institutions offer and pick the ones that kind of fit your lifestyle and what's kind of convenient for you. I know a lot of folks that I work with set theirs all up. So whenever there's any kind of spending on their bank account or their credit cards, they get those text messages right away. That's really helpful for a lot of folks. So, take a look at what your banks offer and take advantage of those. Also, again, we kind of mentioned early on checking your credit report. We recommend everybody use annualcreditreport.com at least once a year to look through your credit reports. Again, you want to look for those inaccuracies, signs of identity theft. You want to look at any accounts that are listed, make sure they actually belong to you. If there's addresses, you want to make sure that those are places that, you've actually lived at, phone numbers that you've actually used. So you want to check everything on there for any inaccuracies that kind of may show the signs of identity theft or somebody else using your name and information to open up accounts that you're not aware of, that type of stuff. But we recommend annualcreditreport.com because it is authorized by federal law. They'll give you a free credit report every week right now. During the pandemic, they expanded it to every week. We recommend, go in there quite regularly, especially if you get any of those security breach notifications, anything like that. You want to go in and kind of make sure everything is correct on those credit reports, but do it at least once a year, if not a little bit more frequently than that. And if you find the signs of identity theft, you can place a fraud alert on your credit profile. And that's going to last a year. And it basically alerts businesses that something's happening. They need to take extra steps to verify your identity. You can extend it if identity theft is going on. You can extend it for 7 years, I believe, and they'll just kind of let those businesses know that they've got to take, again, those additional steps to verify that you are who you say you are. You'll just call one of the 3 major credit bureaus, or you go onto their websites and you can let them know, Experian, TransUnion, Equifax. You just let one of them know and they'll put that fraud alert in with the other 2. So they'll notify them that that fraud alert needs to be in place for you. But we encourage everyone to consider a security freeze on your credit reports. It's free to place it and it's free to lift it or thaw it. So basically, it's going to stop anybody from getting access to your credit report and being able to open up new lines of credit in your name. And again, whenever you need to use your credit, so if you need to buy a new car, or a few weeks ago, I changed internet providers. When I was doing that, I had to go thaw my credit reports and put in those applications, and then you put that freeze back in place, and those applications for different lines of credit can go through while you're doing that. But basically, you've got to go to one of the, actually got to go to all 3. Sorry about that. You got to go to Experian, TransUnion, and Equifax, their websites, put the freeze in place. It is free to place it. It's free to lift it. And again, it's just going to stop other people from using your credit. So if you're not out actively searching for new lines of credit, it's a good idea to put that freeze in place so nobody else is able to use your information to open up accounts, things like that. And it's kind of one of the best tools that we recommend for fighting identity theft. Like I said, I've been victim of some security breaches past couple of years. I know in at least one case, somebody has tried to open up a credit card in my name. I had a freeze in place. Luckily, that caught it. I got a message in my email saying, did you try to open this account? It wasn't me. So they stopped everything. So basically, if you have the freeze in place, you're going to be able to stop those types of things from happening. So I'd encourage everybody, when you got a minute, again, just go to Experian, TransUnion, and Equifax, their websites. It's free to place, free to lift. And the lift is pretty quick too. Within an hour of clicking the link on their website, they should have everything lifted. And if you need to open up new lines of credit, you can do it pretty quickly. And if you think you're a victim of identity theft, you can call our office. We've got our phone number there on the screen. You can also go to consumer.sc.gov. And again, on that little how do I button you've got on our screen, you'll be able to click that and do identity theft and scams. And I kind of wanted to show you this too. Just so you can know where to find our identity theft reports. You'll see that little news tab there in the middle of the screen up at the top. Then there in the blue right below it, you'll see reports. So if you click on that, we have a long list of different reports that we put out throughout the year. But when you get to that page, the identity theft and scams report is the 3rd one down. So you should see that. And we just posted that onto our website a little bit ago. So you'll see that the 2025 ID theft and scams report, and that's a PDF there. So if you weren't able to download it from the chat section, you should be able to find it on our website. And if you have the slides, you'll be able to click this image and it'll take you directly there as well. And I will take a moment here to see if there's any questions that have popped in. Try to navigate my computer here. And I'm taking a look and we'll check one more spot here. Okay, I see something. Somebody asked, how can they download the copy of the report? We do have the report on the website. Hopefully you're able to get that. And somebody asked, kind of get a copy of the presentation. I'm assuming you mean the video. We will hopefully have the video on YouTube later today. So that will be the video on YouTube. And if you didn't get the slides, let me know. And I see somebody else said they weren't able to get into the chat to get that. So if you don't mind, if you'll shoot me your email address, and I'll share my email here in 1 second. That public information email, that the notices about the webinars, those also go to my email address. So if you reply to that, I'll shoot you those files as well if you're not able to download those. Then if you see, we've got a few more webinars coming up, and I'll share my information here in 1 second with you guys. We do have a couple more webinars coming up. HOAs and the law next week. I know that's a pretty popular one with folks. We put our HOA report out a few weeks ago. just kind of outlining some of the complaints filed with our agency involving HOAs. So we kind of followed that up in March with a presentation from one of our attorneys who kind of goes over some of the various laws involving HOAs in our state. March 12th, I'll be talking about my information was breached, what now? So kind of be walking through those identity theft steps you might want to take if you're getting those notices about a identity, or not necessarily an identity theft situation, but a breach notice. So some of your information may be out there, and what you can do to protect it before you're an identity theft victim, hopefully, is what we'll talk about. Then on March 19th, we've got our identity theft and scams, how to stay safe webinar. And we've got a few shred events coming up next week. We're going to be at Shandon Baptist Church here in Columbia, and then we'll be at the Herring Center at Furman University in Greenville. And that is kind of right near their basketball arena there, if you're familiar with the Furman campus. So it's the Herring Center, which is kind of part of that parking lot right before you get over to their basketball arena on that little frontage road that comes through there. So we hope to see some of you guys next week. And then March 11th, we'll be in Myrtle Beach, and March 27th in the North Charleston area. And I do have a few more questions coming in, so we'll get to those. I do want to share with you guys some of our free publications that are on our website, consumer.sc.gov. We have our Ditch the Pitch, our Identity Theft Prevention Guide, and our Credit Report Guide too, which is pretty helpful for especially this type of situation. So again, it kind of walks through credit reports, what they are, what you should be looking for. So that's pretty helpful for you guys. I see one or two people said they couldn't find the file. So if you guys want to shoot me an email, that's my email right there. Somebody asked about identity theft coverage from insurance companies. That's kind of a personal decision. We don't really say yes or no on that, but kind of the important thing to mention with a lot of those is that you would want to know kind of what they're offering. A lot of times they're basically just kind of monitoring your credit reports for you. So if you're monitoring your credit report regularly and looking over all that information, it may not quite be worth something to you. Again, you can put that freeze in place. That's going to give you that kind of free thing that you can do that would stop a lot of times of identity theft too. So people aren't able to open up accounts in your name. So you're kind of putting that preemptive freeze on there to stop other people from doing any damage. That would be kind of the best steps to take. That would be some free things for you, depending on what the coverage is going to offer you. If they're just monitoring and looking for things that you could find on your own, that may not, be worth it to you. But if they're doing things like challenging potential wrong charges or things like that for you, if they're taking additional steps that you might want to consider and look at and say, well, that's worth my time or whatever, that's kind of up to each individual. Just kind of take a look at what they're offering and if it's actually worth the value to you. All right, and we'll try to get these files. I see a few people have shot their email over to us, so we'll try to get those over to you as best we can here in a little bit. But again, we appreciate you guys being with us, and I hope everybody's had a good day, and we will see you next Wednesday. Thank you.